Delegates, this next part of our agenda, I am extremely thrilled that we are having today. We talk about our students and our kids, and we do a lot for their success. But today, we have the honor of having students here that are going to talk to us, share with us issues, and have a courageous conversation on some very sensitive topics. We put this panel of activists together so that we can hear from students themselves. An incredible panel of student activists that are passionate about their thoughts, represent their other classmates, and are articulate of their needs, fears, concerns. I'm going to briefly introduce each student and then hand things over to our moderator. When I say your name, wave our panelists. We have Jordan Bennett, a senior at Barrett High School, Early College in Baltimore. Andrea Chavez is a sophomore at Oxon Hill School in Prince George's County. Jeremiah Samuel is a senior at Bethesda Chevy Chase High School in Montgomery County. Paige Siebert is a junior at Clare Spring High School in Washington County. Donovan Weekly is a junior at Great Mills High School in St. Mary's County. And finally, from the great NEA, we have Merwin Scott, Director of Community Advocacy and Partnership Engagement at NEA. If you have any questions for our panel, I'm told that the RA committee has index cards. RA committee that have index cards, raise your hands so we can see you. I see Nathaniel over here. I see Shane here. A couple folks that have them. I see Flash running across the front. But if you have questions, please give your card to them. They will bring them up front. We will get to as many as we can. Merwin, take it away.
Great. Thank you. Good morning, MSEA. Good morning, MSEA. All right, that's more like it. That's the MSEA I know. I work at the National Education Association. I bring greetings on behalf of our president, Lily Eskelson Garcia. I am also a Howard County resident. I see Howard County in the house. I live in Laurel, Maryland, and my daughter goes to Atherton High School, and my son goes to Murray Hill High School. But I want to just say one thing because I'm going to be short. I want to introduce our guests. I am excited to be here. These individuals, these student leaders, I've had an opportunity to meet them and speak with them, and they're absolutely awesome and incredible. But let me just say one thing. Cheryl, thank you for having this panel, your leadership. I look forward to working with you. This is an awesome opportunity for us, so thank you so much. David and Sean, just absolutely crazy about those guys also, but I do want to say one thing for Adam, who made this possible, had conference calls with us, kept us informed and kept us organized. If it wasn't for Adam, this would not be possible, the behind-the-scenes work. All right, so we're just going to jump right into it because we have about 4 hours, I think, to get through this. No, we have an hour. And so, but what I had shared with many of these student leaders, that all of the business, the NBIs and the business that you all are handling and taking care of this weekend is to support students. And also, we want their voices to be heard during this time. And so with that being said, I'm going to let them briefly introduce themselves, and we're just going to jump into the questions because they're coming in. And so with that being said, I want Donovan Weekly to introduce himself, speak about what he's passionate about, why he's passionate about those things, and what he wants educators to know about what's happening in his school and his community. Donovan?
All right, hello everybody. Thank you for coming out today. My name is Donovan Weekly. I go to Great Mills High School in St. Mary's County, and something that I've been really passionate about for last couple years actually, is the incarceration of parents for possession of drugs. And what we've seen actually is that drug laws are affecting minority students disproportionately. It's horrible because what we're seeing is that, you know, Caucasian people and African American people are using drugs at almost the same exact rate, but for some reason African Americans take up about 63% of the prison population for things like drug possession. It's not right whatsoever. And so I've been on a couple of committees, not really to talk about drug legalization as much as I want, but at least improving school culture with the problems that are going on in a lot of students' households. And so I've been on the Principals Advisory Council, which is very school specific, and at Great Mills High School, it's where we come together with the principal. It's a group of about 12 students, and we talk about what the problems are in our schools. You know, we talk about the fact that some kids are coming from unstable households, and they're bringing that attitude with them to school, and it's affecting their learning. I'm also part of the Superintendent Student Leadership Advisory Council, which is a bit more county-wide. And what we talk about is the same things basically, but at a more county level. And then aside from that, I'm also in the Youth Advisory Commission for the County Board of Commissioners. And though we haven't had our first meeting yet, I plan on being on the committee for education. And I hope to talk about how these drug laws are affecting students and how, you know, if a student does not have parents in their household, it's going to affect their education. They don't have someone there who's there to support them, give them emotional support. And then it falls on to the staff at the school, such as teachers, and you guys are very busy as is. It's very hard to be the main emotional support for all of your students at once. And then what we also see is a problem with short staffing for all of these students. At my school, there's 1,600 students, but there's only 5 counselors now. Last year there were 4. So that's almost 400 students for each counselor. I think that's ridiculous amount of students for counselors to have to manage. So, yeah, that's it.
Great. Thank you very much. Let's give Donald another hand, everyone. Our next student leader that we'll hear from is Paige Seibert, and I'm absolutely just really interested in her story because she really has a very interesting story. Thank you, Paige. Go ahead.
Hi everyone, thank you for coming. I'm a junior at Clear Spring High School, and I try to involve myself in a wide variety of activities. So I'm class president, I'm in Future Business Leaders of America, I'm really passionate about SGA and things like that. I play a lot of sports, but today what I mainly wanted to talk about is the opioid crisis and funding. There's a nickname for the intersection of Interstate 70 and 81, which is right near where I live, and it's called the Heroin Highway. So, to try to combat this issue, I'm in a group called Washington Goes Purple. It's a substance abuse awareness program that was designed to educate the community and youth against substance abuse. We modeled this from Carroll County, and it's actually been really successful. Our main month was September because that's the month for opioid awareness, and we actually raised over $35,000, so we've had a lot of success. So we have trained a lot of people in Narcan. We've given a lot of presentations, community events. We have actually officially partnered with my SGA group, which is the Washington County Association of Student Councils, because I serve on that board. And then, so we've been trying to get into schools, and that's our main issue. So we did after-school events, and we've been having poster contests and just anything to get students more involved. I'm also on the local advisory for drug and alcohol, and this is another group designed to educate about substance abuse awareness, and it's really important because we have things like tobacco programs, and we have educational classes, and we also talk to all the students. So on both of those boards, I'm the only student representative, so it's my job to get all the information from that board to the students and vice versa. And so we've been doing a lot of work, and there's been a lot of issues with vaping as well, and it goes on the whole spectrum. It can be anywhere from heroin to vaping and everything in between. All of it is just a really big problem in our county right now, and it's affecting how students perform in school. Because when they're distracted by these things or even physically impaired by these things, they cannot perform to the best of their ability. My other issue is funding. I'm in a group called Strong Schools Maryland, and we're leading the statewide grassroots campaign in Maryland to create a world-class education for every student, especially those who are disproportionately affected by policies due to race, poverty, disability, and language. And so our goal is to turn Kirwan Commission recommendations into policy. So we've been working really hard. There's only about 7 months left until these can be actually turned into policies, the recommendations. So I'm a team leader for that, and we have meetings every week, and we've been trying really hard to meet with state delegates and senators, and we're gonna go down to Annapolis a lot during the General Assembly. And so one of our main goals right now is to get everyone to vote yes on question 1 so that there is no longer a loophole. And we want to close the loophole so that casino revenue is actually going towards educational funding instead of somewhere else. So that's the main things that I'm passionate and advocating for right now.
Awesome. Thank you, Paige. Our next student leader is Andrea Chavez.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I want to start by asking, how is it possible you have a classroom of 37 students and 1 educator? And how many periods? 4. And how much does that equal? Plus 200 students a day. And there's A days and B days. That's more than 400 students in 2 days. How is that possible? 58% African American, 33% Latinos. The educators don't speak Spanish, so how are we supposed to ask the questions that we need to be successful when we don't understand each other? Spanish-speaking students go through a lot to get to this country, to get the education they need and want to be successful. We don't have the help that we need. I need at least 2 counselors, Spanish-speaking counselors at my school for my 33% Latinos to get the education that they want and need. They're not able to due to the lack of staff. They want to communicate with each other, but we can't because of the lack of staff. My goal is to have at least 2 counselors that are able to communicate with their students. 2 Spanish-speaking counselors, that's all I'm asking for. I'm here for my Latinos to have a voice. I'm Andrea Chavez. I'm a sophomore at Oxon Hill High School. I'm from El Salvador. And I'm here for them.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you, Andrea. Our next student we'll hear from is Jordan Bennett.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Jordan Bennett. I go to Bard High School, Early College. The issues that I want to talk about today is underfunding in schools and the connections between teachers and students. I'm in a program called the Intersections, where we serve underprivileged communities in Baltimore City while also getting college readiness resources. And so for funding over the summer, we canvassed and knocked on doors to get people to understand the Lockbox Fund and get them to register to vote and, like Paige said, to vote yes on question number 1, November the 1st. And so for the connections between teachers and students, I have a few things to say. There should be extra help and attention for students who don't catch on as fast as other kids. Because we may have kids in the classroom who can understand and who can pick up things fast, but everybody can't. And I'm speaking on the behalf of those students who can't understand everything the teacher says. And when teachers get frustrated because they don't understand what the kids, they don't know why the kids don't understand what they're teaching. Instead of helping them more, they push them away and pay attention more to the kids who do understand. since they are doing their job correctly. So a solution to that would be office hours. It's simple. Stay after school for at least an hour to help those kids who don't understand. Also, it should be support for students inside of schools that aren't just teachers, people who we see in a hallway every day, and we can just walk up to them and confide in them and tell them our problems, and they would talk to us, just talk, because some people just need that. And the last thing is teachers. I'm from Baltimore City, and it's this thing with teachers who aren't from Baltimore City. When they come inside the classroom, they give off this vibe of like a weird pity complex where they lower their bar for us instead of raising it higher. Instead of pushing us to be better, they expect us to be less. And for you to be a teacher, that isn't your job. You should want us to succeed and be a part of that process.
Wow, thank you very much, Jordan. Thank you so much. All right, last but not least, we have Jeremiah Samuel.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jeremiah Samuel, and I attend Bethesda Chevy Chase High School in Montgomery County. First, I would like to say what I am involved in within my school, and I'm the school-wide vice president at Bethesda Chevy Chase High School. I am also a Minority Scholars Program leader, also known as MSP. I am also part of the Montgomery County Regional Student Government Association, so I am the South County liaison. And my goal in that liaison role is really to communicate between schools in Montgomery County. So what I'm really passionate about, and I actually thought it was really interesting because the Minority Scholars Program and what they really do really aligns with my goals as well as values. And those things are facilitating, having teachers know and how and when to facilitate conversations within their classrooms to not tear students down but build them up. Recently, I've signed up for a student leadership class, and in that class, my teacher just absolutely ridiculed me in that class, and I am one of the few African-American students in that class, and having her just completely ridicule me in front of the entire class really took me back. And I want to make sure that I am the only one to go through that. I don't want to have anyone else need to go through that. And so that's one of the things that I can achieve in the Minority Scholars Program. Some other things that the Minority Scholars Program, as well as I have worked to achieve this summer, as well as throughout its past 15 years of existence, have been creating culturally responsive classrooms towards all students, as well as really pushing and really empowering minority students to take higher level classes, and that is one of my main goals.
Wow, let's give it up for these students again, everybody. I see some future educators in the house up here. I think I got a note that we've suspended business for the rest of the day and we're just going to continue this panel for the entire day. Is that true? No, I don't think that's going to happen, but we do have some time, and we have 11 questions that have come in. We're going to try to get through every question, keep the questions coming. But the first question, and let me just say this, while they were talking, I just wanted to kind of get up and do a happy dance, listening to them share with you all today. This is one of the most powerful bodies in Maryland, and to have the opportunity for them to hear from you all is powerful. So I want you to be in your authentic voice as we go through these questions. First question is, what is something you wish your teachers would do differently? Dun, 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 dun. Yes, please. Go ahead, Jeremiah. Jump into it.
Something that I would really like to make sure that all teachers understand is the amount of power that they have in schools. Every single teacher, administrator, principal, vice principal, assistant principal has a certain amount of power that they don't realize that they have a lot of the time. And that power can be used to tear down or to build up students. And I've too often seen teachers tear down their students when they should be empowering them and encouraging them. I have had the pleasure of having wonderful counselors and teachers most of the time who have been willing to push me to take higher level classes, as well as making sure that I am aware of all the opportunities possible in my school, and I really value that. So the first thing that I would like for the teachers to understand is that using that power to facilitate conversations in the class, make sure students are comfortable in their classrooms, and making sure that students feel comfortable in the classroom environment can really empower them to take higher level classes. It can empower them to be more successful. And that's something that I really wish teachers would do a little bit more of. I wish teachers would take the extra step to make sure that they have office hours, take the extra step to make sure that they're providing for their students, because that's their goal at the end of the day. Their ultimate goal is to make sure that we are successful as students.
Great. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Paige.
I think that teachers need to really go the extra mile and take extra initiative, especially starting in elementary school. I was first separated from my classmates in first grade, and that should not happen. When you separate kids in first grade, you're already telling them that someone is more intelligent than them, that someone's on a different level, that they're being pushed harder and they're getting the better teachers. And that's just not fair, because that sets them up to not have as much success as other students. We're separated in high school and middle school and elementary, and it shouldn't be that way, because kids shouldn't have to decide their own future just in kindergarten, and that's really unfair. And I see the county and I see the state pushing for a lot of initiatives, and teachers will follow through with them, but they don't wholeheartedly want their students to use them. For example, we have a box in our hallway that students are supposed to use if they're concerned about a friend or even just a student that they know, and then the teachers can react to that, and counselors. But all they do is say things over the announcements, and we don't hear the announcements, and they don't actually take the time to have valuable conversations with their students throughout the day and take extra initiatives that could really change somebody's path on their education.
Great. Thank you, Paige. Thank you so much. Anyone else? Yes. Jordan.
I just want teachers to connect with their students. I know their job is to follow a lesson plan, but it's more than that. If a student get a low test grade, or that day they just not feeling well, talk to them and ask them why did they get that test grade, and instead of telling them that it's no way they can make it up and just let them fail the class, like, it's other alternatives. And we all go through stuff, even teachers, we all have our bad days, but it should be another option than just to let us fail, but allow us to understand that we did something wrong, and to give us that leeway to do better the next time.
Great. Andrea?
Students have a lot to take. Not everybody has, a life where they can just go home and sit and relax. They have a lot to take. Teachers need to understand that students don't have the best days every day. They go through a lot, and I do understand that teachers have a life as well. Teachers don't understand how much they mean to students. Students value their teachers. We might not show it in class, but we mentally know how much you guys go through every day. And not every student is very polite. Not every student is gonna take their time and say, thank you for being the teacher that you are. Me personally, I will, because I really appreciate the job that you guys do for us. It's not easy, I understand that, but I really feel like you guys can, do that little extra thing and just ask the student, are you okay? Ask in the morning, is everybody feeling okay this morning? Does anybody need to step outside and, just take a minute before we start class? I really feel that that would be very helpful.
Great, thank you. I'm switching the questions up. I'm gonna take a point of personal privilege. A question came in, and it was for Jeremiah specifically, and as you know, he's a part of the Minority Scholars Program. For the sake of learning, Jeremiah, how did that teacher ridicule you? We need examples so we won't repeat these awful practices.
Right. So this happened in my student leadership class, which I had the opportunity of enrolling in for my senior year of high school. So what we did was we all had a project proposal, or we had certain project proposal that we were supposed to submit to the teacher, and she was grading them in front of the class, and so she was leaving comments on people's papers, and this was when we kind of had free time in class, so we were all just kind of doing our thing. And what happened is she saw mine come up, and for me, this was my first time in the class, first time doing the project, and while I am a student leader in my school, I really hadn't had any other opportunities to officially plan a project in my school. So when she did finally look at what I had written down, she was like, Jeremiah, this is impossible. And I was like, I think it actually could be possible. She's like, no, this is really impractical. I don't know how you ever hope to do something like this. And I was like, well, I was thinking in my head, why can't we just talk this out maybe, like in a little bit more of a safe space in class, because you just saw everyone one by one looking back at me like, what is he thinking? Like, why is he doing it? And for me, being the person that I am at my school and in that class, I didn't shrink, but after that, being like torn down from my teacher like that, I really did. And that was something that will stay with me for a while, and I really didn't expect to come from that teacher because of the past relationship that we had. So that was what she really did. I've had another teacher do the same thing to me, where she would read out the higher scores in our class, and then she would tell the other students who didn't perform as better, you need to do better. And she would call them out in front of the entire class. And so for teachers, what they really did in both those instances is they publicly humiliated me, or one of their students. And having that public humiliation really does not help the situation. It might encourage the student to work harder, but it does not empower your students. Empowering your students and breaking them down is two totally different things, and that's just what I want all the teachers to know out there.
Wow. Thank you, and Jeremiah, also just for everyone to remember the power of the Minority Scholars Program. At least he had an opportunity in a safe space to go in and be able to deal with that particular issue. Many students, as we know, don't have that. All right, moving right along, I want to jump to this one. What do you think can be done to attract more students to pursue education careers? Yes.
You said education careers?
To pursue careers in education.
Okay. So, as you all might know, since you are educators, art programs has been cut. To me, art is a way that you can actually get students to understand your work, because it's hard to sit down at a desk for long hours. It's hard, but to get students to understand you in a different way instead of just a textbook and paper and pen, that might attract your students, which also will show them that it's different ways to teach, and will show them that they can possibly be teachers, because at that point they will be engaged in your work and teaching methods.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
So
Donovan.
I think something that would attract students to want to become educators is the fact that you guys are all educators. You have to be people that students would one day want to become. like, there's a lot of teachers out there who come to school every day with a pretty miserable look on their face. They look like they don't want to be at the school. They look like they hate their job. And I mean, that's a horrible thing for students to see. I wouldn't want to be an educator if I saw that. And so, and yeah, I think that's my main point.
Wow. All right. Moving right along. This is a topic that's really important to many of us. What are your thoughts about school resource officers, police officers in schools? Yes, Donovan.
It's a difficult topic because commonly a lot of minority students don't particularly like to see police officers in a place where they're supposed to feel safe, where they're supposed to feel welcome. And like I said, we have a problem with incarceration of parents right now. A lot of times those experiences are very traumatic to children, seeing their kids being taken away in a police car, or just the fact that they know that their parent is not in the household at the moment because of a police officer or something like that. And so a lot of people worry about things like police brutality and things like this, but I think they're necessary for school safety especially, and I think that they're a great asset. I think the most important part of having a student resource officer in the school is they need to be people who actually socialize with the students. They need to be people that students can come to and where students can talk to them and have active conversations about them, what's going on in the school. And I mean, that's just the key part of it, I think.
Andre?
When they say officers, students get mixed emotions. They might think of, what if I end up like this, I end up like that, or I get sent back home due to a bad movement that they did, a bad option that they did. They were giving an option of either doing this or doing that. They probably took the wrong path, and they're afraid to speak up. They have the power of making us feel safe. That's their job. A lot of them just sit there and just look around for students to make a bad move for them to speak up. That's not their job. They should be, like he says, talking to them, making them feel safe, making them feel like they're able to go to them if they have an issue. Peer mediation is their number one thing they can go to, but they have other resources, but they don't know because the officers don't speak up when they can.
Great. You want to add into it? We'll come to Paige first and then come back to Donovan. Paige?
I feel that it's extremely important that we add more resource officers to our school. My school, personally, we have open classrooms, so some of our classrooms have doors to the outside on them, and we didn't even start locking those doors until there were so many shootings last year. We just do not have the means to take the necessary precautions to protect ourselves. We have one resource officer, but he's split between 4 different schools. The other school is half an hour away. At one of the shootings, the officer responded within 6 minutes, and people still died. Many people were still injured. So how is that even close to a viable solution for our school? If there's one thing that funding needs to be directed to, that's it.
Great, thank you so much. Donovan?
And, I really agree with what Paige said. Resource officers are very necessary to school safety. But I also, at the same time, like what Andrea said, and that is the fact that they need to be people who students can talk to. For example, I had a resource officer my freshman year, I believe, and this is actually kind of funny, but she came into our health classroom and she was talking to us about underage drinking, underage drug use, and things like that. And she was telling us, if you guys are at a party or something and you've been drinking, you feel like you can't go back home without getting to a serious argument with your parents, then you call me and I'll come get you and I'll take you home and I'll try to, mediate the situation between you and your parents. And I think that makes a lot of people, it humanizes police officers to people. It shows them that those are human beings too, and that they've been through the same struggles that you're going through as a teenager. They're learning the same things that you're learning, the same things that they once had to learn as well. So I think it's just a key between realizing that they are absolutely necessary for school safety, but I think the boards of education, when they're hiring these resource officers, they need to make sure that they're people who can socialize with kids well and be their support system.
Great. Yes, Jordan?
I think adding officers wouldn't be a bad thing if they were to do their jobs correctly. Students, definitely African American students and Latinos, we feel threatened by police officers and officers in general. So adding them, it would just be a threat to us. And like I was saying, just if we were to add more counselors, because from 2014 to 2015, the percentage of counselors leaving or fired was 30%. And so we could add more counselors where kids can go talk to them and feel safe instead of, well, not instead of, but in addition to adding officers.
We got a complaint. I want to remind people to take their side conversations to the hallway. Thank you so much. Dropping down. Okay, so I would like everyone to take about 30 seconds to answer this question. What is the most stressful and difficult issue you dealt with in elementary school that your teacher never knew about? Andrea?
You said elementary school, correct?
Yes.
I was 5 years old when I started school. I was in kindergarten. I said hi, good morning, and that was about it. She said, does anybody do not understand the work? I just nodded my head like I understand everything. But little did she know, I understood nothing. I was not an English-speaking student. I did not know what she just said. I did not say yes, no, I nodded my head. I knew everything, but I did not understand a word. I feel like if she would have personally asked me, Andrea, do you really understand the work? I would have been like, no, like I knew what she said, but I would have never understood exactly. I feel like she would have understood that I wasn't understanding anything. I failed kindergarten due to her not knowing that I was not understanding the work. I was a Spanish-speaking student only, non-English. And I was like that for the whole year until my parents went up there to the school and told my teacher I didn't understand anything that she was saying throughout the year.
Anyone else? All right, perfect. Thank you very much, Andrea. All right, I love this question. I want to answer it, but I'm not a student anymore. What is your favorite support staff? Custodian, cafeteria worker, and why? Mine was Mr. Steve. He used to give me extra pizza if I help him put in the lunchroom. That's a true story. I'm sorry. Let me repeat the question. Who is your favorite support staff? Custodian, cafeteria worker, bus driver, and why? Education support staff. Yes.
My
Paige?
favorite support staff is the administrators because personally they're the ones who allow me to do all of the advocacy that I do. I leave school at least once a week to go to meetings and to advocate for things, and they're the ones who give me excused absences, and they're the ones who let me make up my work, and they're the ones who give me permission to do everything that I do, and they thank me for that and representing our school and our county. And I wouldn't be able to go to Washington Goes Purple, and I wouldn't be able to be in all these meetings that are all adults during their work days if it wasn't for the administrators. And personally, I just have such a close bond with them. Like, our vice principal will come and just sit at our lunch table. Like, she's one of our favorite people. And I just think that's so great, and that's so important. Like, every student needs to feel comfortable with their administrators, because for some people, when they see them walk into the room, they get terrified, and they act like somebody they're not. Even teachers do that. And it's just really important to have a close bond with them, so that's why they're my favorite.
Great. Thank you.
I just have a quick question. By support staff, does that also, like, can that also include, like, the secretary at the school?
Absolutely.
Okay. So there's this lady named Miss Williams at my school. She's the secretary to the principal, and everybody really loves her, especially the kids that get to talk to her often. Like she organizes our field trips when we have to go to central office in St. Mary's County to talk with the superintendent at our meetings. And it's just every time she sees one of us in the hallway or something, she runs over to us, she talks to us, she asks us, like, how's your day going, how's school going? And, you know, she's just always having an active conversation with us about, you know, how our lives are doing and everything like that. And when we have certain things that, you know, like, for example, I was at the governor's press conference for his new safety hotline, and she still won't stop talking about it. She's like, oh my God, you got to go talk to the governor. And she's really supportive in everything that students do at the school, and it's awesome.
Awesome. Anyone else? Andrea?
My support system that I can rely on any day, any time of the week, 24/7 would be student government and my peer mediation. The both are run by the same person, Ms. Brown. She's my advisor, and she's like my second mom. My mom at home, I'm at school. The mom that can't be at school with me, she's there every day. When I'm down, I'm able to go to her. When I'm uncomfortable about anything, I'm able to come to her. Like, I feel so motivated and excited to be at school because of her. She made me, the way I think about school now is due to student government. The way I vision my future is because of student government. I feel like if a student doesn't have that one support system at school like I do and how I feel about it, they won't be motivated, they won't be excited like I am.
Great. Thank you, Andrea. Okay, we're going to try to get through as many questions as we can. Please share suggestions you may have that would support, facilitate, and/or build stronger relationships between students and educators. Yes, Donovan.
So this especially applies to high school teachers, and that is, you know, usually between classes there's about a 5-minute transition period. At least that's how it is at my school. And some of the teachers, it's okay, once that 5 minutes is over, you need to sit down, start the warm up, and that's that. We're getting straight into class. But I've noticed that the teachers that students tend to like more are the teachers who actually have about an extra 5 minutes in class for everybody to get seated and for the teacher to just say, you know, how are you guys doing? What's going on? It's teachers who take initiative to learn about what's going on in their students' lives, and I think that really helps student-teacher relationships.
Great. Thank you, Donovan. Jeremiah?
Something that I think that many teachers can do within their classrooms that I actually was telling some social studies teachers earlier this week was you can really facilitate conversations within classes. If a student comes to class and they're like, oh my gosh, did you hear what happened in the news? Or can you believe that this happened at this school across county? Facilitating that conversation in a safe space for the students really helps everyone get that off their chest. And then once they get that off their chest, then they feel motivated to actually participate in the class. And then they also feel motivated to come to the teacher later in the day and say, hey, you know what? I know you really get it and you really understand that we all really needed to talk about this. And that's why now I'm going to respect your time in the classroom and make sure that I'm listening to you when you have something to teach, when you have a lesson plan to teach. And that really creates the strong relationships between the teacher. Just facilitating a conversation, or like Donovan was saying, just having the, I don't know how to say it, just really having the vulnerability in classrooms to either facilitate a conversation or ask students how their day is going, ask if anyone has any announcements, ask if anyone has anything that they need to get off their chest, really makes a difference during the day for students.
Wow, powerful, powerful. Anyone else? Yes, Paige?
One thing don't think that teachers realize is how invaluable it is for us when we see them outside of the classroom. For example, if I have a tennis match and a teacher takes time out of their day to come and watch me and they compliment me the next day, or I see teachers at basketball games and things like that, or they say, I'll give you an extra homework on your day because I know you have a tournament today. And the teachers that take the time out of their day to lead things like SGA and FBLA and be coaches of sports and anybody like that, that's just invaluable. Those are the teachers that we value and form the strongest bonds with, and that furthers our education, because when we're close with a teacher, we have a better bond with them and we can perform better in their class regardless of what the subject is.
Great. All right. Perfect. What do you think is the biggest issue facing students in Maryland now? The biggest.
So I've noticed, I mean, this isn't something that I really struggle with myself, but I notice that a lot of my peers do. And that issue is mainly financial issues are hurting a lot of students right now. Like, for example, the other day I was in my AP chemistry class, and in that class it's required that everybody has their own graphing calculator to bring to school to take quizzes and everything like that. And one of my friends, I don't think he's able to afford a graphing calculator, and the teacher, when he asked the teacher, can I please borrow your graphing calculator to use for this quiz, the teacher kind of got mad at him and was like, you know, we're a month into the school week, a month into the school year, and you still don't have a graphing calculator. And he just really made him feel really bad, and that's kind of a recurring theme that I see sometimes, is when we have students who might have financial problems, in higher classes that tend to cost more, same with like AP tests, for example. A lot of teachers aren't aware of what might be going on in the background and why that student might be coming to class a little underprepared.
Great, thank you. Okay, earlier in Andrea's opening statement, she mentioned about class size, and Andrea, everyone can chime in here, but I want to ask Andrea, Andrea, how does class size affect your learning environment?
I'm personally a visual learner, meaning I need to see the math. I need numbers, her going step by step, and show me the work. Okay. Students are in the back acting like they know everything. Testing comes statewide and we fail because we're in a class of 37 students and we can't get around 37 questions that we have. The questions that we need answers to get that question right on the test. We get it wrong due to 37 students being in one class and one teacher. That doesn't make any sense. I might have 37 questions. How? I'm gonna need the whole class period, but she's not gonna stay after school, he's not gonna stay after school and answer my 37 questions because there's 37 students in each class. That doesn't make any sense.
Great, thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Want to jump right into this question here because I think this is something did a conference call Donovan had brought up, but everyone can answer it. What do you see a greater need for mental health services in schools? Yes, sir.
So definitely. You know, we've been seeing it across the United States. There's been an increase in school shootings lately. And a lot of this is accounts to the fact that there's students out there who need help. They need the attention. They need the personal one-on-one conversation with support staff. And so in schools, there's definitely an increase in need for it. You know, something else I've noticed is a lot of students are becoming more aware of what mental health is. Their students are starting to understand that, hey, this is maybe I shouldn't be feeling this way all the time and stuff like that. And so, yeah, I think definitely with an increase of the awareness of mental health, there is also an increase in need for mental health services within our schools.
Great, thank you, thank you. Yes, ma'am, Jordan.
I'm going to keep saying this. We absolutely need more counselors in school. I looked it up, and I think it said like almost 400 students for one counselor. How can you talk to 400 students and make sure they're okay and they have the resources that they need when you have to talk to 400 students and for one counselor? It's ridiculous. And I just think everybody go through stuff, maybe not the same as the other person, but we all need to talk sometimes. We all have our bad days, and we just need more counselors.
Absolutely. Wow, thank you. I don't know if Sean Johnson's in the room, but we probably can take these students to a lobby day visit with us, maybe. So following up on that, what can educators do to create a safe space for students to appropriately express their mental health concerns without feeling inappropriate reactions or judgment? Creating that safe space to have those conversations. Yes, we'll come to Andrea, then we'll come to Jordan, and then we'll round out at the end down there with Donovan.
Okay. Teachers have their lunch break, and it's about 30 minutes. About 30 minutes, maybe 15.
What did you say it was? It's no about?
And there's times you don't have a lunch break at all. And I get that. It's probably the same time you're doing lunch as the same time that we're in lunch. And that's the only time we can go to either a counselor or a teacher. Maybe I feel more comfortable with a teacher than my actual counselor. Am I able to go to you during your lunch period while you're eating your lunch? I'm gonna feel uncomfortable, but you're probably the only person I trust. With that being said, I understand your job is to teach me and not me coming with my problems and telling you about it, but I'm comfortable with you. You can go ahead and tell my counselor to come talk to me, but I feel like my job is expressing myself to you because that's who I'm comfortable with.
Thank you, Jordan.
I think it could be as simple as just asking your students every day, how are you feeling? Or how's your day going? And so you can build that type of relationship. So one day you can say, how are you feeling? They say, well, I'm good, I'm fine. The next day, same thing. But if you keep asking, eventually when you ask and something is going wrong, they will feel safe to tell you, well, today's not okay, it's not a good day. And you are opening your doors for them to talk to you. And also, I just feel like teachers, I know it's a lot on your plate, but teachers' doors should always be open for students to come and talk if they need to.
Great. Thank you, Jordan. Donovan?
I have nothing to say anymore. I think Andrea and Jordan wrapped it up very well. So.
All right. Let's give them a hand on that, everybody. I think we have about 8 more minutes. We're going to try to get through a few more questions, and then we may not get, some of the questions were similar, and we may just have an opportunity in your last few minutes to give a closing statement. But what do you feel is the most effective way of assessing your learning? Yes, Jeremiah?
I believe that the most effective way of assessing students' learning is to possibly give out a survey or seeing how really the student reacts to the class itself. I've seen a lot of teachers give out surveys that ask random questions, but a lot of the surveys actually contain ways of how the students learn, whether it's visually or whether it's lecturing is the most beneficial way for them. But I think if you really take a chance to talk to your students, understand your students, or even just hand out a survey, just to understand what the most effective method of teaching your students is, I really think that you can accompany and really accommodate most of your students in your classrooms so that you can effectively teach all of them.
Andrea and Donovan?
I feel the most effective is actually understanding the teacher and knowing what she's saying and the language. Spanish-speaking students are sitting in classrooms not knowing the language at all and still having to test, still having to take all these assignments and having to do all this work, not knowing a thing on that worksheet, failing because they're not understanding the language. That's not fair at all. Have a Spanish-speaking teacher in the class if it's necessary. Translate it. Google Translator is free. Just translate the whole worksheet. It will be 10 times easier as a student.
Great. Thank you. Donovan?
So I just want to throw this out there. I think I know one way that we need to, one way not to assess our learning is standardized testing. It's not you know, I'm gonna say this right now and have no shame about it. I can do very well on tests, but the moment I have to actually apply what I'm learning, things get a little difficult sometimes. And I think that's for a lot of students, because we're so busy studying, oh, we need to be able to answer this question on this test, but whether or not we can actually apply what we're learning is a completely different thing. But I think it definitely helps to just have one day out of the week maybe with your students. Some of my teachers at my schools do this, where the teacher goes to the front of the classroom and is like, what are you guys struggling with right now? What do you need me to go over? What should we review this week? And I think that gives very qualitative answers as to what students need to learn still, rather than just simple data with numbers on it that isn't personalized whatsoever. So.
Great, thank you. We'll come back to Andrea.
I recently took the PSAT. I had 4 ESOL students in my testing site. We have practiced PSAT in our English class recently before we took the test 2 weeks prior to it. Those 4 students started on the test and had to raise their hand and tell our teacher that they weren't able to go through with the test because they had no idea what was on the test. How are you going to give us a test that means so much for our future? A PSAT, if we fail that, we can't have internships. If we fail that, we can't take those upward bond internships that we want to take during the summer. So you're going to give us a test that they can't understand, that they have no idea that's on there, but they want to take it because they want a good future, but they're not able to because it's not in Spanish.
Great, thank you. Yes, Paige.
I also believe that we need to not have so much emphasis on standardized testing, but I do understand that we do need to have tests during the school year because we do need to know where the students are with their learning, and we do need to get those college credits out of AP classes and Essence and things like that. But we need to stop putting testing in such a high-pressure environment. If you tell a student that testing is going to be 70% of their grade and there's only 2 tests, you're already setting them up to be very stressed out. And if everybody does very poorly on a test, then make it out of less points. If everybody gets a 30%, maybe you curve that up, but you need to put it in an environment so that students still feel that they want to do well on the test and they're still motivated, but that they don't feel like their entire future and entire grade depends on just one test. And another thing is that teachers tend to know where their students are. At the end of the year, teachers can generally tell you who's going to pass their AP exam. They can generally tell you the grade where their students are going to end up, what their average is going to be, what their final exam is going to look like. So there is no need to bombard students with tests throughout the year and just claim that it's a way of seeing where they are, because it's really just stressing them out and tanking everybody's grades, in my opinion.
Great. Thank you, Paige. Paige, also, while I got you going and everything, wants you to sort of give us just a quick breakdown on the Heroin Highway. That was something that you spoke about, the Heroin Highway from Baltimore all the way to Washington County, Hagerstown. And when we think about drug infiltration, many times I think of, you help me with my awareness because I think about communities of color, but I would have never thought that a Heroin Highway from Baltimore into Hagerstown in Washington County. So can you give us a quick update on what's happening with the Heroin Highway?
So we are making some progress through the committees I talked about, but the intersection of the Heroin Highway is right near our mall and all of our biggest roads in Hagerstown, so it's extremely accessible for people to get heroin. For example, someone that they interviewed in the Baltimore Magazine, they said they used to drive from Hagerstown to Baltimore 3 times a day to get their daily dose of heroin, but now they can get it delivered quicker than they can get a pizza delivered. So it's just so accessible and anybody can get it. And Hagerstown does have a lot of students of color, and whenever they're being targeted by epidemics like this, it's really causing the students to struggle. For example, Hagerstown has 3 schools. They're the biggest schools in our county, and 80% of their kids are on free or reduced lunch. So the majority of people cannot afford just to eat lunch every day, and they're not in a stable situation or stable environment, and a large part of that is due to the Heroin Highway, because it can happen to any family. It's not, people used to think that it was just homeless people or people who are struggling, but now it can be the star athletes, or it can be somebody who got hurt and then they became dependent on pain medicine, and it can be anybody in the education system or very high up. It can be anyone, and people are starting to realize that, and it's affecting the entire community, not just one part.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, I think we are, how are we on time? Another hour? All right, so the Madam President said we were going to wrap up, but as we, when we first met on the phone and we were having a conference call and I was explaining to you who you'd be speaking to, one of the most powerful bodies in Maryland, you have an opportunity to tell your story. What parting words would you like them to know as we wrap down? You've been excellent, you've been awesome, you've inspired all of us in this space. And we'll start with Donovan. You have 2 seconds. No, you take 10 seconds, and then we'll wrap down. Thank you.
I'm just going to say this. Be there for your students. Be the shoulder they can cry on. Be the person they can talk to whenever they need you.
Like everyone has said, we understand that you have bad days, but try to accommodate for students when they have theirs, because we're still young and we're still developing, and we probably can't handle it as well as you do. So we need strong people like you to help us out.
Just take 2 seconds of your time and translate it.
Students are leaders, but teachers can be leaders also. Make a change through your students.
Take your time to really create a safety net for students within schools. That's what the Minority Scholars Program does, and that's what we hope that all teachers can do as well. Thank you.
Wow. What powerful leaders. MSEA, let's give these students a hand. Let's show them some love. Donovan, Paige, Andrea, Jordan, Jeremiah, thank you for being with us today. Thank you so much.